Welcome, my fellow horror enthusiasts, to Creep's Horror Stories. Tonight we delve into the unsettling world of old cabins, places where whispers of the past linger like phantoms in the shadows. We have three true disturbing old cabin horror stories that will send shivers down your spine, each one a chilling reminder that some places hold secrets best left undisturbed. So gather close, turn down the lights, and prepare to be terrified. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more terrifying tales. Deep in the heart of a sprawling, isolated forest stood an old cabin chosen as the weekend getaway spot for a group of unsuspecting friends, young woman as Emily. The drive to the cabin was long and winding, the sun slowly dipping below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the road. They arrived as dusk began to settle, a palpable chill in the air despite the approaching summer. Laughter and excited chatter filled the air as they unloaded the car, their youthful exuberance momentarily eclipsing the unsettling atmosphere of the cabin. The inside was dusty and musty, the air thick with the scent of decay. Cobwebs adorned every corner, and the furniture was draped in white sheets. They quickly set about airing out the cabin, their initial apprehension fading with each shared joke and burst of laughter. The fireplace was soon crackling merrily, casting a warm glow over the dimly lit room, and the friends settled in for a night of ghost stories and shared secrets. Young woman as Emily. As the night deepened and the stories grew more sinister, a sense of unease began to creep in. The wind howled outside, rattling the old windows, and strange noises seemed to emanate from the depths of the cabin. A floorboard creaked above their heads, followed by the distinct sound of footsteps. The friends exchanged nervous glances, their laughter dying down to a hushed silence. But as the night wore on, the occurrences grew more frequent and more unsettling. A cold spot settled over the room despite the roaring fire. One of the friends swore she saw a shadowy figure dart past the doorway. Panic began to set in. They were trapped in the middle of nowhere with no way to contact help, and something sinister was lurking in the shadows with them. Sleep was impossible, every creak and groan of the cabin sending their hearts racing. Then, in the dead of night, came a blood-curdling scream. Young woman as Emily. One of the friends, a young woman named Emily, awoke to find a dark figure standing over her, its face obscured by the shadows. She screamed again, her voice raw with terror as the figure lunged at her. Chaos erupted. The friends scrambled out of their beds, their eyes adjusting to the darkness as they searched for the source of the commotion. Emily lay huddled on the floor, her eyes wide with fear, but the figure was gone. They spent the rest of the night huddled together for safety, their eyes darting nervously around the room, their breaths shallow and rapid. Dawn couldn't come soon enough. As the first rays of sunlight pierced through the cracks in the boarded-up windows, they wasted no time in gathering their belongings and fleeing the cabin. They left behind the remnants of their fear and the unsettling feeling that they were not alone. The friends never spoke of that night again, but the memory of the old cabin and the terror they experienced continued to haunt their dreams. In the secluded outskirts of a forgotten town, nestled amidst a thicket of whispering trees, stood a weathered old cabin. The Harper family, seeking refuge from city life, decided to make it their home. John, the father, saw it as a fresh start, a place to reconnect with his family. His wife, Mary, envisioned peaceful evenings by the fireplace. Their children, Daniel and Lily, saw it as an adventure. They packed their belongings and journeyed to their new home. The closer they got, the more isolated they became, the sounds of civilization fading into silence. Upon arriving, their excitement gave way to unease. The cabin seemed imposing in the dying light. Shadows stretched from the woods, twisting into menacing shapes. As John unloaded the car, a cold wind carried a mournful whisper. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, they set about making the cabin their own. John chopped firewood and Mary unpacked boxes, her humming contrasting the silence outside. Daniel and Lily explored with curiosity. As darkness fell, the cabin's true nature revealed itself. Strange noises echoed, floorboards creaking under unseen footsteps. Mary felt watched, unseen eyes following their every move. One evening, Mary felt a cold spot, an icy breath against her neck. Lily, clutching a doll, whispered, "The doll just spoke to me. It said to leave." John tried to rationalize their fears, but the strange occurrences continued. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut, and whispers grew louder. One night, Daniel heard his father arguing with an unseen presence. "Leave my family alone!" John roared. Daniel, terrified, ran back to his room. As weeks passed, the paranormal activity intensified. One evening, the dinner table overturned, an unseen force tearing through the house. John admitted defeat. They had to leave to escape the malevolent entity that had taken hold of their home. The forest stood shrouded in an ethereal silence, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. A lone hiker, a young man named Ethan, trudged through the undergrowth, his backpack heavy on his shoulders. He was lost, separated from his group, hours ago, and the setting sun cast long, menacing shadows that danced and twisted around him, amplifying his sense of isolation.
The map he held, now damp and crinkled, offered him no solace. As darkness descended, a sense of dread began to creep in, wrapping around him like the cold, clammy fingers of the forest itself. He quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest, each rustle of leaves, each snap of a twig, sending a jolt of fear through him.
He'd heard stories about these woods, whispers of strange occurrences, of people vanishing without a trace. He pushed these thoughts away, clinging to the hope of finding his way back to the trail. Just as despair threatened to consume him, he saw it. A faint light flickering in the distance, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness.
With renewed determination, he surged forward, his legs aching, his breath ragged. As he drew closer, the outline of a small, dilapidated cabin emerged from the gloom. Relief washed over him, a temporary reprieve from the relentless fear that had been gnawing at his sanity. He approached cautiously, his hand hovering over the hunting knife sheathed at his side.
The cabin was ancient, its wooden walls weathered and worn, partially consumed by creeping vines. The windows were boarded up, the only light emanating from the gaps in the wood, casting eerie, dancing shadows on the ground. He called out, his voice hoarse, but the only response was the mournful sigh of the wind whistling through the trees. Hesitantly, he pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside.
The interior was dark and dusty, the air thick with the smell of mildew and decay. He fumbled for his lighter, the small flame sputtering to life, casting a flickering glow that illuminated the cramped space. The cabin was sparsely furnished, with a rickety table and chair, a dusty cot in the corner, and a cold, empty fireplace. Despite its dilapidated state, it offered shelter from the elements, a temporary sanctuary from the unforgiving wilderness.
As Ethan settled down for the night, his back against the wall, his senses on high alert, he couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The silence of the cabin was unnerving, broken only by the sound of his own breathing and the incessant pounding of his heart. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves against the boarded-up windows sent a jolt of fear through him.
He tried to convince himself it was just his imagination, the product of exhaustion and fear, but the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing hour. He thought he saw movement in the shadows, fleeting glimpses of something lurking just beyond the reach of his flickering flame. His hand remained clasped tightly around the handle of his knife, his knuckles white with tension.
As the night wore on, the strange occurrences intensified. He heard whispers, faint and indistinct, seeming to emanate from the very walls of the cabin. Objects moved on their own, a tin cup falling from the table with a clatter, the chair rocking back and forth as if pushed by an unseen hand. Sleep was impossible, his mind racing, his body taut with anticipation.
Then, he saw it. A pair of eyes, glowing with an eerie, unnatural light, peered at him from the darkness outside the window. He froze, his breath catching in his throat, his blood turning to ice in his veins. The eyes blinked slowly, their gaze unwavering, filled with a chilling intelligence that sent a primal fear surging through him.
He scrambled to his feet, backing away from the window, his heart pounding against his ribs. He fumbled for his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness, but the eyes were gone. Thanks for watching Creep's Horror Stories. Tonight we've delved into the unsettling world of old cabins and the terrifying experiences of those who dared to enter their domains. Remember, these are not just stories, but chilling reminders of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows, waiting to claim unsuspecting souls. If you enjoyed these tales, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Stay safe and sleep tight, knowing that somewhere out there in the vast expanse of the night, another horror story is unfolding.